Back to breaking news in Manhattan at the Empire State Building, where it appears two people have climbed to the top of the spire with a banner. Jim Smith is in Chopper 2 over the scene right now. You know, Jim, every time we come back to you, I hope that they are not up there anymore and that either someone's got to them or they have decided to come down.
That's right, Cindy. We would hope that they would use the judgment to climb down off of there as soon as possible. This is all happening at the Empire State Building, the top of the spire. The antenna atop the Empire State Building. Two people have climbed up to this area. As you can see, they've put out a banner. As we've been talking about, this is an area off limits to the general public, typically a highly restricted area. Normally only technicians that would be working on equipment and official personnel would be able to get access to this area. It's been difficult to assess what type of response is ongoing by building security or the NYPD in order to address the situation. As you can imagine, many of the ways to access this area are inside of the building before they get to that top of the building where they would then be outside. We were looking a few minutes ago. There are still people out on the observation deck. So at this point, it does not appear that they have been completely evacuated. It's like they are allowing people to go out and just not permit new people to go out onto the observation decks. But again, there are people still permitted outside. We'll be following this situation, again, trying to determine what type of response the NYPD would be making to this situation. The top of the spire, about 1,300 feet in the air. That's the rough height at the top of this antenna. And we will continue to follow this situation. Cindy?
You know, Jim, I know we've been all trying to see what the banner says, and it looks like it says, when the power of love beats the love of power, the world knows peace.
Thank you, Cindy. Yes, we've been difficult as we've been flying around just with our distance here and the altitude, unable to make out exactly. We were able to see the words love and peace. Again, there is a message on that banner to people at the top of the spire. We started receiving word about this just about 12 o'clock. That's when the reports first started coming into our newsroom. So we're now just over 20 minutes into the situation, at least 20 minutes into the situation, and still trying to determine what measures the NYPD as well as building security would take to address the situation. As you mentioned a few minutes ago, Cindy, you would hope that these people would just decide to climb down on their own.
And I'm looking at them right now. I don't know what they're doing. I'm just trying to see. It looks like one person was doing something. So, you know, you had been going up and down the spire to see if people were able to, you know, continue at the observation deck. And it looked like they were out there and just leisurely walking around.
That is right. I will tell you that for this time of day, I was expecting to see more people outside, but there are people outside. So there we can see some people walking around. That is the observation deck, and it does appear they are still permitted outside. We're seeing somebody start to look up towards the top of that antenna area. We also have to keep in mind, while we started getting reports of this just about 12 o'clock, it's unclear how quickly building security and the NYPD became aware of it as well. But this is an area that is not easy to access. This is not a quick elevator ride to get up there. There are many elevators and then stairwells and ladders to get just to get to the outside portion of the building before you then have to do multiple ladders to climb up to the area they are right now. About 10 minutes or so, we did watch one person climb down to one of these lower platforms. They were there for several minutes, or maybe about 2 minutes, and then they eventually climbed back up. It's difficult to see what they were doing. They did reach down to the ground, so it's unclear whether they had something else on that platform. As I mentioned, though, they did eventually climb back up to join that second person, and now here we are coming up on close to a half hour, at the very least, that they had been at the top of the spire on the Empire State Building.
Hey, Jim, it's Jessica Moore. I'm just joining in on this coverage here. I'm just curious, and forgive me if you've already said this, are you seeing any sort of emergency response on the ground preparing to interfere here, or what are you seeing?
Jessica, it's very difficult to see what the response is because most of the access to get up to this area would be inside of the building. There is a point as you get to the top of the Empire State Building that before they would eventually get outside access. That would be somewhere in here. We have not seen anybody outside the building as of yet. It's difficult to see down on the street. We have had to circle as opposed to hovering, so it's been difficult for us to look down on the direct street response below.
I see. So you're not able to see if there are fire trucks or any kind of emergency vehicles sort of swarming the outside of the Empire State Building right now. You're not seeing that from your vantage point.
Right. Let me just take a few seconds here, and I apologize as the camera will be moving constantly. So we'll try to get a look down onto Fifth Avenue, past the streets as well. And with the amount of tall buildings here, it is very narrow looking for us. As we were trying to look at these towards the top of the building. And right now, as you can see, we're just moving around towards 34th Street and Fifth Avenue. For the moment, I'm just going to bring the camera back up to the top of the building, and if we get another peek down at the streets below, I'll bring the camera back.
Yeah, that's fine. And from your perspective, are you seeing the box on the left side of the screen for viewers watching at home? It's a little bit difficult to see. The people are still up there, correct? I see the flag waving. But there they are. Okay,
that is correct.
So they're still there, and they're showing no signs of movement, getting down. What are they just? They're just standing up there?
That is right. They've basically been standing at the position that they are right now, the top of that spire. As I mentioned, probably about 10 after 12 or so. We did see one person climb down to a lower area. We were hoping that they were beginning the process of climbing off the spire altogether to that platform that's maybe about 25 to 30 feet below where they are now. That person, after a minute or two, climbed back up to the top again, and that is where both people currently are, again, at the top of the spire next to that banner.
Tower that transmits radio and television signals, and radio and television technicians have actually regularly climbed the mast and antenna sections to install and maintain broadcast equipment. So the building has been one of New York's major broadcast transmission sites for decades. Joining us now on the phone is Glenn Corbett, professor at John Jay. Professor, what is your take on this? Are you watching this right now?
Yes, I am. I can see what's happening right now.
What do you make of it?
Well, you know, this is obviously a very unique situation. And, it brings to mind what happened decades ago with the World Trade Center with Philippe Petit climbing between the two towers. There's not a heck of a lot that either the NYPD or the FDNY can do with this other than try to approach these folks and try to talk them down off of this. Obviously, it's a very narrow spire, and there's not a lot of area for lots of people to move up towards this. So this is going to be, I think, to some extent, like it was back then with the World Trade Center, a waiting game here to try to convince these people to come back down. It's obviously very dangerous for them, but it's also very dangerous for the responders that will have to climb this tower to try to convince them again to come down. So it's going to be a wait and see for, I'm sure, for a while here until they in fact decide that they're going to come down off of this.
You know what, Glenn, it reminds me back in 2018, you probably remember when the activist Teresa Cuomo climbed the Statue of Liberty. I remember we were on the air for hours that day. She was protesting one of the Trump administration's immigration policies, but she was there for about 4 hours. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Now that you reminded me about it, yeah, I remember that. And they all have that same characteristic of that folks are trying to send a message of some type, but they're essentially in control of this until they decide to come down. So there's not much that the police or the fire department, I think, can do with this.
And right now we see one of the people kind of moving around the spire. He looks like he's going down. I'm curious, earlier he had gone down to a almost like a ledge that they have some things, so I don't know if they're using equipment up there. The other thing is, obviously this is illegal. Can you talk to us at all about, what these folks face when they finally do get down?
Well, that's a good question. I don't, the World Trade Center was Port Authority property. The Statue of Liberty is National Park Service. This is private property. I think these folks will probably face more stringent repercussions for this because the city, the police department, and the prosecutors have control over all this. It's not a separate, federal agency or like the Port Authority. So we'll have to see. But this is again very dangerous, not only for them but for responders. It doesn't look like they have any kind of equipment to basically secure themselves, of course, as they climb things, which is part of safety protocol. You can see the red light that they're sitting on there, the warning light for the aircraft and things. There's folks that have to go up there and replace those, but I could almost bet you it's a much more aggressive, safety protocol on actually ascending this tower that I think some people know since this building is, during the Depression, built during the Depression, this tower was intended for dirigibles at one point, that they were going to actually have hooked up to the top of it. So this is, again, a very unique situation. I think these people have got a lot of attention now, probably worldwide, as this goes on. And, I think they're probably facing a lot of repercussions for this.
I mean, what motivates someone to do something like this, risk their own life? Cindy was able to decipher what the banner said: when the power of love beats the love of power, the world knows peace, or something very close to that at least. But what motivates someone to risk their own life and to risk serious criminal charges to do something like this? Right.
So that's really says something, right? The fact that they're willing to risk their lives for some bigger message that they're trying to convey to people. I mean, the fact is that you're covering it, and again, probably TV stations across the world now are covering this. They've got as much attention as they could ever get, as opposed to something on Facebook or something like that. So, I'm a fire person, so it's really not something I really study very much. But so there's passion here for what they're doing. It's actually, this is insane what they're doing, of course, at the same time. So. Super dangerous. And
especially in these conditions, we see the flag blowing around. It's obviously windy up there. We can't even imagine how windy it is. And then you've got the heat in addition. This is just so scary to watch.
It is. And, I was surprised earlier you had, when we were looking down at the platform, the observation deck earlier, there were still people milling around there. I'm really surprised that the security folks didn't empty that out, because if one of these people falls, it's likely they're going to end up probably there, or they can end up, somewhere else as well. Of course, the police department is probably going to try to clear all the streets away so that if one of these people falls down, it doesn't injure anyone on the ground or somewhere else.
Glenn, I have a question for you. Knowing now that your specialty is in fire, when police and fire coordinate some kind of rescue, what does that look like? How do they tackle this?
Well, again, this is a spire, and there's really only one person at a time that can climb up this thing. So I suspect that, the police department, of course, has the emergency services unit, and it's probably more closely aligned with them, given the kind of situation that this is in right now. So I would imagine they would send up some men or police officers to first talk to these people and try to get them secured and stuff. I think that's probably their primary objective, is securing them, so that if they do fall, they're not going to fall very far, basically. So, in your view right now, there's a helicopter. I can't make out if that's a police department helicopter or not. They may be trying to communicate with them up there.
Yeah, it is an NYPD. You're right. As we zoom in here, it definitely is an NYPD helicopter. Would that be the way they would communicate? Because just seeing how elevated they are in the sky, this isn't a situation like in a hostage situation where you're able to throw a phone inside a building to communicate with someone. Is this what they're limited to, sort of trying to communicate with them aerially?
Yeah, unless these folks trying to communicate Facebook Live or something like that. I mean, that's another possibility to sort of do what, doing what they're trying to do. It looks like they're gathering up their flag right now, and are probably going to make their way down. But again, this is about as dangerous as you can ever get, obviously.
Oh, no, it does look like, you're right, Glenn. It does look like they're starting to make their way down the spire. So you have to wonder if something was said from that NYPD helicopter